Welcome, everyone, to episode 2 of Mercy Receive Podcasts. I'm here again with Catherine Lanni. Catherine, how are you doing today?
I am well, thank you. And yourself?
I am well. Thank you
Praise
so
God.
much. Amen. We just got done talking about your miracle, and what a story. On your deathbed, the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary spared your life, right? Could you take us back to after that moment happened? What happened next? I know you mentioned a little bit that it wasn't an instantaneous thing. You weren't, back on your feet right away. But what did the next couple months or years look like for you and your household after that miracle took place?
Yeah, the recovery it took about a good year to get back on my feet. When I came home from the hospital finally, I remember I was in the hospital during Thanksgiving, and my parents were in the hospital with me and going back and forth, and my brothers and such. My husband, of course, he was just white-knuckling it the whole time through, and it was a hard time. And even once I was out of the woods, people, they were still concerned. But Thanksgiving came and went. I didn't even know it was Thanksgiving. But I remember coming home. Oh, my gosh. It was such a happy day. And everybody who's crying, who's happy. It was just such a joyous day. Well, Thanksgiving happened when I came home. My family had planned the big Thanksgiving dinner. My father was huge on Thanksgiving. And
There was a reason to give thanks, right?
It truly was, Piper, on so many levels. My heart was so full. My baby was alive, unlike the first time. My family was all together, and I was present. I didn't have the strength to brush my own teeth, hardly. I needed help with everything. And thank God, God blessed me with a very loving, caring mother and father and husband. And it got me through those rough months and that first year. And once I regained my strength, it was just life was as usual almost, except my experience with Our Lady. It was huge in my heart. But I didn't think anything more of it other than I know God is alive because I saw Our Lady, and I know I always had a special love with the Blessed Mother, for the Blessed Mother. I didn't have the same devotion with Jesus because although I knew him and adored him as my God, I thought he was just way too important for me. He was for like priests and nuns, and sisters, a pope.
Only for the Pope.
Bishops, the important people. Okay. He was there for me, but not that, I just didn't have that personal relationship with him like that. And so, I believe it was Our Lady who had my heart that took me to Jesus eventually. But it was some years after my recuperation back on my feet that life continued as normal. And one of the things that I did every year with my family is in September, around the time of my birthday, I would ask the Men of the Sacred Heart to bring the Blessed Mother to my house. They have a ministry of bringing a statue of Our Lady, and then all the prayers and stuff. And you have her for a week, and as blessings go and fate would have it, I had Our Lady there with the statue there for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, and so of course we invited the aunts and uncles over and neighbors and family, and so every day there was praying the litany of Our Lady and such, and then you'd have a little refreshments or something. It was a favorite time of mine, and also it just meant so much more because of my personal experience of the intercession of Our Lady in my healing. And on this one particular day, it was a Saturday, and that I was teaching catechism, First Holy Communion class, and I had plans of, after my morning prayer, to go out to the Catholic supply store and get some things for my class, stickers, things that the kids loved. And so on the last class that I had, I remember mentioning this to the other teacher that, I was going to be going if she needed anything. And she said, yeah, if you could just pick me up a few things. And so that was my intent that morning. And as fate would have it, my husband woke up early and he said, Kath, I'm going to take the kids with me. He had to go pick up, he was in construction and he needed to go pick up some forms and stuff. And he said, I'm going to take the girls with me this morning. And I just thought it was so funny because, he never took the girls on. I have 3 daughters, as you know. He never would take them on the job because of the nails and boards and things. He was always concerned about it not being safe for them. And so it was funny, but he wanted them to see this job that he had completed. It was a built-in pool. He did all the cement work and stuff. Wow. And so I thought, yes, I'm going to have some quiet time. I can have my prayers, and I can run out to the store and get back. And so he left and took the kids, and I remember it was just the most beautiful September morning. Mm. I had my door wall open. Blessed Mother was by the fireplace and flowers and such, and I said my rosary and the litany. And my heart was filled, and I remembered finishing up and thinking, okay, I'm going to go take care of what I need to do. And I remember walking across it was my dining room. I remember walking across the long dining room, and I heard a voice say to me, continue to pray. Mm. And I never heard any voices. Even when Our Lady appeared to me, she never said a word. And I remember thinking, oh, my brain didn't turn off. It's like when you hear a song, and it plays over, and you can't get rid of it until it goes. Oh, I thought there was something like that. And so I just kind of brushed it off and went about what I was going to do. And then I heard the voice say it again, but this time it was markedly different. This time that sound reverberated in my whole house. It was so powerful. Like I never heard any sound like that before. Mm. And I stopped dead in my tracks, trying to understand, like, what's this, And the first thing that came to my mind, here's the fear, right, was, oh my God, my life was spared back then so I could raise my children up, and now I'm going to die. Mm. I thought I was going to die. And I thought that big voice must be God, and he's going to call me home or something.
He's going to take you home.
He's going to take me home. And so the next first thought was, get over to the statue of the Blessed Mother because it's blessed. And if I'm going to die, that's where I want to die, in my house. And so I tried, I started walking, and I lost all control of my body. I was very coherent and awake, but I couldn't move. I was flat on my face. And the next thing that I realized is that I was looking at the feet of Christ.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And what was that like for you?
I just say his feet are as beautiful as his face. If you can imagine. I knew it was the Lord. I didn't know what to think. I had no thoughts in my head. I was just experiencing the time. And I remember at some point, I couldn't move a finger, I couldn't move a toe, nothing. But at some point, I was standing up, facing Jesus face to face, looking into his eyes. By no control of my own, he raised me up.
He lifted you up.
Yeah, that's good. He lifted me up. And I was staring straight into his eyes, and he just looked at me and he said, I desire a total healing of every strata of the church, beginning with the priesthood, all the way down to the massacre of the Holy Innocents, which is worse today than in the time of Herod. Mm. Can you imagine? And that was abortion. It is abortion. Worse than the time of Herod, the time that Jesus was born. So that's a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big thing.
And when you heard Jesus tell you this desire on his heart, what ran through your mind? What happened next?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind, I got the abortion, for sure, but the first thing that came to my mind was I didn't know priests had any problems or, there was any problems in our church or any. These were things that were going to be coming down the pike, so to speak, that were going to be happening down the road. that he was revealing. And so, it was hard for me to understand or comprehend this because I didn't know anything about that. And it's kind of like just goes on the shelf and you're listening. And then he proceeded to explain things about all of that. And it was still a lot, to understand. And it's not like he had long conversations back and forth. It was just this instant understanding, just this instant, how would you say, you know what you don't know now. What he says, it's just this back and forth in some words sometimes, and so honestly, I was just enthralled. I don't know a word for it.
Yeah. Some things are just
I don't know. Right. I just don't know the word. I'm trying to understand, and yet not understanding. And then he said he desired a meeting of it was a Eucharistic conference of all people, all the church, and that was beautiful. He gave me a vision of that. I saw that. So, I was there before it happened.
Yeah.
But it was really powerful, very powerful. And then, it was just at the very end, just before I couldn't see him anymore, he said, pray the chaplet of divine mercy. Begin to pray the chaplet of divine mercy.
Did you know what that was at the time?
No, I never heard of it. I never heard of divine mercy or anything like that.
And I believe at this point in your story, this was 1992. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about it, he desired that conference, right? Mm-hmm. The Eucharistic conference. And if those of you who remember, maybe you were there, we had the honor of being able to go at the National Eucharistic Congress, right?
Yeah.
I believe that was in 2024, where this big gathering of priests and religious laity,
every strata,
there were 60,000 Catholics in Indianapolis. This happened, and Jesus showed you this desire on his heart over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And so how beautiful it is that
it was. And just like when he said, I desire every strata, and here, here's our human frailty, right? Every strata of the church desire healing of it. Well, I couldn't do anything about the healing, but I thought I had to make something happen about this conference, and I just never had the thing to get up and go on it. He just didn't give it to me. Unlike the other things that he was calling me to do, he didn't. It was just there. It was just over here somewhere. And I remember so often thinking, Lord, do you want me to do something about this? First of all, I don't even know where to begin with such a massive effort that he showed me, because it was so massive. So I really never had anything to come to me from the Lord that I knew I needed to move forward on this, or, go and ask permission, or put this on, I gave everything to our bishop, and everything, but I never felt I'm to do this. I just knew about it. The Lord never gave that to me.
Sure.
So it was, again, it's just another thing of, waiting on the Lord, what he wants, recognizing it. He knows everything. Yeah. He knows what's going to click in us. He knows what we need to hear to move, and so on. So
sure.
He never gave me that, like go and do.
Right. Mm-mm. So as far as the Congress goes, sometimes the Lord reveals his desires to people. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do it.
Right.
But as far as, praying the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, which at the time you didn't even know.
Never heard of it.
Mm-mm. And you still were going to play a part in the healing of the church, right? Mm-hmm. Then that took years to kind of get a handle on. So if you don't mind, let's go back to that and just see, what were the next steps after. So how did the conversation with Jesus end?
So when he said that, I just listened. I didn't know what that was about, so okay, that was must be something holy, but we'll find out. And then I saw that he was going, and my heart couldn't take it in that minute. I just wanted another minute. I just, in my humanity, I was just so enthralled and taken in. Just before that, though, I have to put this in. Just before that happened, and before he told me about praying the chaplet of divine mercy, is I was standing in front of him. I don't know why or whatever, but there was a time where I was standing face to face with him, and I was hearing all these beautiful things that the Lord had revealed in my heart. And I just had an interior, I call it like an open heart, spiritual open heart surgery. Every sin I ever committed in my lifetime up until that point was exposed in front of me. And it's not that he did that. He didn't make that happen. It was more being in such a light, such a holiness, in the company of Christ. I just wanted him to know how bad I was. Yeah, this is my stuff, And so, when I was, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, something like that, 13, smoking my dad's Lucky Strike smoke downstairs and, got caught and, various different things. But I just remember the Lord looking at that and just turning his head slightly and then looking back at me. And his eyes were like half filled with tears. But that didn't fall. Because I always say if he would have cried because of my sins, I would have died on the spot for sure in his presence. But I just knew that I was healed. I was forgiven. I was healed. And I think that turning of his head was like, I already know all that. It doesn't matter. It's done. Yeah. Like St. Faustina says in the diary, Jesus told her, as far as the east is from the west, that's as far as your sins are from you after you confess. And I had confessed. So then he revealed to me about the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. When my heart could not take him to leave at that moment, I said to him, Jesus, would you bless me? It was just like I was wanting to grab him, couldn't, but wanting, like, Jesus, would you bless me? And he turned like this, and he just a soft smile on his face, and he raised his hand like this, and just the rays came out, red and white, and he blessed me, and he was gone. Couldn't see him at all, just like disappeared. And that's how I found out when I asked about it, started inquiring about what is this chaplet, what is a chaplet anyway, and what's this divine mercy. That's how I found out. That was my confirmation about the chaplet and divine mercy.
Yeah.
And so that's how I came to understand, the image of Jesus, the divine mercy. So I called my friend right away. She owned a Catholic supply store. And very wonderful lady. And I asked her, did you ever hear about this devotion about like the Chaplet of Divine Mercy? She said, no, I never heard of it. I said, well, would you look into that and see if there's something comes up? And, and she said, oh, yeah, for sure. Let me see what I can find out. And she called me back a few days later. She says, oh, my gosh, you are not going to believe this. And I said, what? And so she said, there's this stuff, I got it all for you. There's this book, like a diary thing, and there's this saint is powerful, Catherine, blah, blah. So I said, get me everything. Because, of course, my heart was on fire. Yeah. And so she did, read the diary several times, and it just inflamed me like crazy. Wow. Just, albeit the time frame in St. Faustina's life is different from our time frame now. Problems are all the same, issues and whatever. But it was phenomenal. Yeah. And then when I saw the image of Divine Mercy, it just made my heart, there's no words for some of these things, Piper. There's just, it's so deep and so profound and so of God that no word does it justice.
You could try, it just doesn't scratch the surface. Yeah.
No. And so, that was the beginning of a profound time in my life and, the very beginning of the ministry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's so exciting. Just learning more about the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, the whole devotion, which early 1900s, right, with St. Faustina.
Oh, yeah.
Just this I think she was in her 30s when she passed away, but had a third grade education. Miracle that she even wrote her diary so beautifully and in depth, right? But this message of mercy,
Profound.
right? Profound message of mercy that, some people, I think, oh, it's this new devotion. It's just this new
Polish
just another
devotion.
Polish devotion. But you read the Bible, and from the very beginning, you see God's divine mercy at work. So this is nothing new.
It is not.
But
divine mercy is nothing new.
No.
But like Jesus says, who heard about it?
Yeah.
When, the Sunday after Easter, it's not called. And still today, there's, you look on the calendar, it may or may not be on there. More so now, I believe it is, and it's widespread and so on.
Yeah. And it's still, the word needs to get out about it because it's so powerful. So many graces happening that day. But from then on out, you devoted your life to spreading this message of divine mercy. So what happened next?
Well, the one thing that he did say that really embedded itself in my heart, my mind, my memory, and is always in the front of my mind is that one by one, Catherine, and every one counts to me. So that sometimes, when there's, I call porcupine person, a little difficult, whatever. I try to see them through his eyes because even though I may have difficulties with that person or something or the next person, he doesn't. It's so far beyond our understanding, our capability to understand the love that Jesus has for us, the love that God has for us, that, unlike human limitations, he doesn't have that. God doesn't have that. So, always keeping that one by one and every one counts is really critical for us, especially today when there's so many, hardships. Do we mess up? Yeah. He already knows that. It's just a matter of getting up and, saying you're sorry if you did something to someone or whatever, and talk to the Lord, keep going, get up. And that's the thing about trusting in him. It's when we don't get up. It's when we stay paralyzed in fear, anger, and anger is the breath from hell. Boy, have we felt that these days. Do we feel it these days? So just realizing, the mercy of God is so big, so profound. It's just a well that never runs dry. It just runs, and those rays just, that saving blood of Jesus Christ, that protection, the sacramental life, that's the blood in the water to wash us, to reconcile us back to him and keep going. Oh. Here's more blood. Get back up. Keep going.
And he's just waiting. That's the thing, is like he's just waiting, and he desires to be asked because he's a gentleman, right? He's not going to pour these things out on us without our permission, right?
Yeah.
So that's the part of the ABCs of divine mercy, right?
That's
A
right.
is you got to ask. Got to ask for divine mercy. And I think you were talking a couple of days ago, or maybe it was Carla, but just how God never tires of forgiving us or lavishing his mercy upon us. It's us who get tired of asking for it. And so I just think that is so powerful. And the one by one and everyone counts. I mean, we see this on a daily basis here in this ministry. And I know we're jumping forward.
Yes.
It's come a long way, since the very, very beginnings. But a lot of the miraculous things that happen here are on a person-by-person basis.
Oh, most
of them.
You'd walk into the shrine and it's peaceful and beautiful, not recognized or not knowing, because you wouldn't know. Things are done privately. Our prayer times, for the most part, we have public prayer, but, appointments and such where there's private prayer, because it's not for everybody to hear, are when the greatest things happen. Miraculous healings, great blessings, an opening of the mind and the heart to God. Renew faith, and it's amazing.
Oh, it's so incredible. And so let's go back to where we just were.
All right.
I know, it's so exciting. There's so much. We changed my life being here, that's for sure. I never left, and I won't. So I just think back to, you learned about the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, this devotion. Your friend got you everything she knew about it. Where did you even begin?
I inhaled all of it. My heart was so hungry for it. There were several things that led up. Well, it's a progression of time and God working, and, the Holy Spirit working in your life. But I remember the parish that I was at that time. There, it was very because of my gratefulness to Our Lady. I was the youngest altar society president of our church. I was elected that way. And the first thing that I wanted to do was to have the celebration of the Assumption in honor of Our Lady. So, of course, I'm Italian. I'm going to do it the Italian way, You put a beautiful dress on her. You have some seamstress make her a beautiful dress with a long tail. And you pin money on it, and that gets donated to the poor. And, you have the big, a nice big soup and whatever for people, for refreshments and so on. Outdoor procession. Well, the particular church that I was at, there was a handful of women that were in that group with the Altar Society who came from a Protestant background and just couldn't get it.
Really?
No. They just, even though they were, Catholic, they converted, they just thought that was like over the top, to have a procession, to put a dress on a statue, to pin money on it, Of course, it's an Italian traditional thing of pinning the money. But people would do that to give it to the poor or throw it in a basket by, the carrier of Our Lady, and so on. So anyway, I remember being at a couple of meetings, and boy, did they give me a hard time. Oh. First, I was a lot younger than them. They were heavy benefactors in the church, and they were going to have their way. Thank God we had a pastor who understood and had a deep, deep devotion to Our Lady. He got it all and loved the idea. And I said to him, Father, if you let me do this, I will, and he knew I was doing it in Thanksgiving, I'll contact every single parishioner in this parish and let them know of the celebration and what we're going to do, and invite them that night for the Assumption. And so he showed up to the meeting, and they gave him a hard time. And this is when I began to understand, and I'm not saying the truth, I'm going to tell it like it is because that's who I am. That's when I began to understand and see the issues that were beginning in the church, or that were happening in the church. A couple of these women in particular got up and started yelling at him in his face. I mean,
the priest?
It was nasty. Oh, yeah. And so he shut down the meeting and whatever, and we were going to be meeting in a couple of days. So the night before the next meeting, where we were going to meet again and try to come to some agreement, I was so nervous. I was so nervous because I knew this was a beautiful thing. I knew, that it would be a good thing to contact. This particular church had gone through some difficulties for some time. And I knew reaching out to all of the people and inviting them to such a beautiful feast day, it would be a good thing, a very good thing. So that night when I went to bed, I had a difficult time going to sleep. So I was starting to pray another rosary, and I just remember saying, Blessed Mother, help me. Just those ladies are older and they're wealthy, and, and I'm scared. It's like, geez. And I never asked for all this anyway. I just wanted to go to church, whatever. And don't want to deal with these ladies and people and all this fighting and arguing and things that I was witnessing. I didn't have time for that. I had a family to raise and so on, bread to make, pasta, Mm-hmm. So I was praying the rosary. I fell asleep, and I had a prophetic dream of St. Anthony of Padua. And so in my dream, I said to St. Anthony, I didn't know it was him. I remember he was sitting on this rock, this big, beautiful, shiny rock. And I looked and I said to him, wow, are you the Pope? Are you the Pope? I figured, he's got to be something, mm-hmm. So holy, so beautiful, so much light. And he just smiled and he said, I'm St. Anthony of Padua. Wow. And so I said, well, good. First of all, I never had a devotion to him. I thought it was like ludicrous because I had this aunt who all I remember growing up is she'd lose her keys or lose something, and she'd be praying to St. Anthony. I thought, how terrible. Such a holy saint, I guess, and bother him with your keys. Well, so I'm never doing that. So here I am having a conversation and saying, oh, St. Anthony, tomorrow I'm having this meeting in the morning, and these old ladies and crabby things are, hollering at the priest, and I just want to have this Thanksgiving, this Mass for the Blessed Mother and do these beautiful things and so on. And I said, I don't know what to say to them that I haven't said already. And so he went on this massive discourse. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, like the most beautiful symphony that you could ever imagine that you were engaged in. And just listening to him teach about Our Lady. And so when it was like all night long, and then at the end of all of it, when he was done, I said to him, I'm never going to be able to say all that. I'll never be able to remember that, St. Anthony. And he said to me, all you have to remember is this. Our Lady, the Blessed Virgin Mary, is daughter of the Most High God, our Creator. She is the mother of Jesus Christ, our Redeemer. And she is spouse to the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
And I said, I can remember that. I could do that. And just taken up in my heart. And then he said to me, remember, pray the Chaplet of Divine Mercy.
There it is again.
There it is again. And so the next day, went to the meeting. The arguing started again. And I just said, listen, very peacefully, didn't raise my voice. I just said to them exactly what St. Anthony said. And you could hear a pin drop. Nobody said a word. Nobody said the word. So the priest went like this, and he said, it's done.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you, Jesus.
And I took back then the church roster. I called every single parish. And the church was packed, standing room only.
Amazing.
Beautiful outdoor procession, Mass. It was so beautiful. Another lady in the church knew somebody, a seamstress made a beautiful gown for Our Lady. She had tons of money around her that was donated. And it was just a beautiful experience. A little piece of Sicily,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I would love to go someday.
So good.
No, that is so beautiful. And so it was St. Anthony. St. Anthony.
Yeah.
And you hadn't had a devotion to him before that?
No,
prior.
no.
You're
Purposely.
like, purposely, I don't want to bother a saint with my keys,
No.
everything. So I wonder, how did your devotion to even St. Anthony, how has that prophetic dream affected your own devotion?
Well, I had another one sometime after that, some years later made sense to me again.
Okay.
Going through it, I didn't really know what that was about, but I remember him saying to me, let's go for a walk. And we were like walking this big road, and at some point, the sun was so beautiful in the sky, and rays were coming out of it, and I just remember I vomited my tongue. My whole tongue was like on the ground. And I remember looking at him and saying, like, now I won't be able to talk, And he just smiled at me and just blessed me. And I woke up. And years later, because I just thought that was the weirdest thing ever, trying to make sense out of that, couldn't. Years later, because up until that time, whenever I talked about Jesus, my knees would just shake, just like underneath, just, I don't know why, but I was young, and, I was just like, there was so much to do in life, regular family life and stuff. And, it was like, I didn't go through seminary or formation. I didn't go through any of that stuff. I taught catechism. I went to the classes and that, but nothing prepared me for, all the things to come. I found out later as time went by and the Lord revealed, the meaning of that was that he was going to call me to speak, public speaking. And that's exactly what happened, The knees stopped shaking. It was just like now talking from the heart of truth, the truth of, because the blessing is, I don't have to orchestrate things. Praise God. I never prepare. if I try to make an agenda or whatever for a talk, it fails. It just like, it's mine, you know. I never have to do that. It's whatever the Lord puts on my heart as it pertains to whatever is, there are the things of the Lord that I can say, well, the Lord did this, or asked, or bless the mother, or whatever it is. So I don't have to think up stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the revelation, whatever it is. And he just gives me to know that by his grace for his purpose. You know, that is supernatural. It's not an average thing. And it's because he hasn't called me to, in his work, the work of the Lord, that's a whole different domain of which I was not trained. So the Lord, just like I said, the little girl going through it, like, sure, I'll do this, you know, never knowing. And, you know, it's like whatever he reveals, whatever Our Lady prompts me to do, you know, she doesn't say a whole lot at all. I just know that when I see her, I pay very close attention because I know she's there for a reason.
Yeah.
She's there to protect or something that's not good. She's giving me a warning of it, you know, or whatever. So yeah, that's how that works. In the normal walk, the regular walk of life, I would say it's just regular and normal. However, you know, through the day and through the night, I sense the presence of God, and Our Lady in so many things. But one funny thing, I remember early on, it's like, I don't know what to wear. What do people wear that God comes to? You know, I had just so many things. Or what shouldn't I wear? And should I dress like, you know, humble, like, you know, I don't know what. And all these different things that were in my heart conflicting because I'm a married woman and doing God things and you know, what God called me to do. And I just was, you know, and I remember going before the Blessed Sacrament and praying and just imploring Blessed Mother, what kind of a woman? What does God want from me? You know, what does he want from me? Because I have all that, you know, my life.
Yeah.
And she said to me, Catherine, your primary vocation must always come first. Your primary vocation must always come first. In other words, my covenant that I made with God and my husband is what's getting me into heaven. Everything else is after that.
Yeah.
And it just straightened it right up.
Wow.
Now, I could dress like a married woman. You know, I could be pretty. I could wear jewelry and lipstick and whatever and raise my family, do what I need to do, go to church and pray, go before the Blessed Sacrament. You know, prayer group, whatever he wanted me to do, I could do that just as I am.
Yeah.
Just as I am. I don't have to be somebody else. And that's why I love this saying of St. Catherine of Siena so much, too. Be who you are, and you will set the world on fire. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the truth.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I keep coming back to that second dream of St. Anthony too,
Yeah.
right? Of where you vomit and your tongue comes out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that understanding of like, it's not going to be you really
That's right.
who's speaking. It's going to be God speaking through you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite incredible to get to witness. And just, you know, how people are always touched. I think of your Friday reflections and just knowing that like, there's something in it for everyone who visits here because it's coming from the Lord, right? For them. And so I just think that too, just being St. Anthony, right? The golden tongue.
The golden
tongue. What an incredible speaker he was as well. So it makes sense, you know now. And just at that time in your life, you know, not knowing what was going to become of you in the future, right?
Oh, no.
Of this ministry even. And so we think of being called to, you know, Jesus saying, pray the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. St. Anthony, Chaplet of Divine Mercy, right? Because now we're here and we're a lay association of prayer ministers. There's quite a few of us now. But in the beginning, what was that like? How did it begin?
Well, initially, Our Lady led me to some people, probably, I don't know, maybe there was like 12, 13 people, you know, to go to. And I approached them. We prayed together. We started to put, just get together, and more people as the word spread kind of get together. And we would meet in basements, who's ever's house. And that was really cool. There were a couple of women in particular that massively impacted my life for years, going through a lot of things in ministry. Dorothy Medaragas and Anna Amabile. They were powerful prayers. And there was also another lady. Her name will come to me now because she massively impacted my prayer life. That I never heard anybody pray so naturally, so beautifully. Mary Mullins. She's bishop. I need another coffee.
We could do that.
Oh, goodness. It'll come to me. McClory, Bishop McClory.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in Indiana now, but his aunt. And we would just get together and pray because, that was what they taught me. And seemed right. And it all worked out, the time frame and whatever. But those women really impacted me in a way that they would say, this is normal for visionaries, Catherine. And that word was new to me, too. I'm a visionary. It's like, what is that? Oh, no, I'm good. It's like, no, you are. And that's so a couple of them went to Medjugorje regularly. In fact, I think they all three did. But anyway, they would say that you go through a lot and so on. So anyway, they were a tremendous guidance for me. Powerhouses, and yet so humble, very humble. And especially when, I went through a difficult time in ministry, they would call me up, take me out for breakfast, lunch, meet you after Mass, whatever, just to encourage. And sometimes, it was hard. It was there was a hard lump, a few of them earlier on, and they were there with me. And all three have passed on, but they're forever in my hearts. Yeah. Forever in my hearts because they impacted my life. And that's why it's so important, reaching out to people, praying with them, helping them through the storms of their life, because God will give us the grace to do that, to speak what needs to be spoken, to encourage what needs, that person might need, to help them take the next breath, help them take the next step. That's what we are, ambassadors for Him. We're just His handiwork, His beloved people that walk, pray, and minister to each other to help us. And that's why it's so important to be in that fold that Jesus talks about, being together, because it's safe.
Absolutely. We weren't meant to do this alone.
No, we weren't.
We're
Satan loves that. He loves when we go away, go off on our own.
That's when he can get us.
That's right. We're vulnerable. We're very vulnerable when we're on our own.
So having that strong, faithful support system through it all is really what helped you, it sounds like, especially with these three ladies who impacted you so much.
Yeah. So we began, and then we outgrew the basements, and we started at St. Barnabas Parish. They had a little prayer group there, I think, already started, and it had phased out, and so we began a new one, and it continued to grow and grow, and I remember moving from there to St. Thaco's Church, and it continued to grow, and just amazing things came in that time. And, the Lord led me to my first spiritual director, and I just remember telling him my story the first time, and because I needed help. I needed the help of a priest, and that's where the Lord led me, and to him in particular as my first. And I have to say, Father Benici, God rest his soul, he was one of the most humble persons that I've ever met in my lifetime, up till today, 68 years old. Just true humility. But anyway, I remember going into the confessional and just bearing my heart, and he was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. And I thought, oh, boy, here it goes. Your whack job or something, whatever. But he didn't. He asked me to come and sit in front of him. And I did. And he said to me, if this is from God, it will bear much fruit. But if it's not from God, only God can help you. And I felt the impact of those words for sure. And then it began. I told him we have a group, for prayer group, and can we, and it's just the rosary and the chaplet, and we did that every week and whatever, and we grew and we grew. And then I asked, well, can we celebrate Divine Mercy Sunday? He said, no, Easter took place, you don't need it, whatever. And so could we just pray? And he said, okay. He was a very prayerful man and, very willing in that way, but don't ask for more than that. And so we had a great number of people. And the following year, I asked him if, we could have Mass and so on, confessions. He said no. And then the Lord put something in my heart to share with him. And so privately I spoke with him and I shared that with him. And he just looked at me and he said, nobody but God knows this.
Wow.
And okay, I take that from God. So we had our first Divine Mercy Sunday.
And what parish was this at?
So that's St. Tacla's.
Okay.
Almost 1,000 people. I don't know, we had 15 priests, maybe. Other priests were coming in to help out. And it was an amazing feast day. And so from that time on, we grew and, and we moved on from there. And, then, the Lord revealed the first Divine Mercy Center. And that was an amazing thing. And St. Anthony had a hand in that. Well, that's another story.
A whole other story. And we could talk all day about this. There's so much
Amen.
that God has done throughout this whole story and this history of bringing this shrine, right, to be. And so it's all miraculous. And I thank God to be a part of it and to have this time with you to just chat about how it all happened and how God brought it to be. And so I think for now we'll call this at the end of the episode. But if you're interested in sticking around again, we'll be talking more about book A Call to Trust. It's available online and in our gift shop. And if you're interested in knowing more about this content, about the shrine, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome.